Hello, everybody. Bruce from Oregon with the Bruce from Oregon Show. This is episode 0. It might be the first, it might be the last. Let's find out. Today, we are doing a new part in the Management Best Known Practices series. Today, we're going to be talking about OneNote. I'm going to explain how to get it. I'm going to explain how to use it and some ideas that you might find useful when using OneNote, whether you are a self-employed employee, a fake retiree, a real retiree, a manager, an upper level manager, anything at all. We're going to get into it. Today, our guest cat of the day is Magic Button. Magic Button has sunglasses and a magic wand. Tap your magic wand on the like and subscribe buttons, if you will. And keep in mind, I have different playlists. I have playlists for playing some video games. I have playlists for management videos. And playlists for live streams. So check all of that out, and links will be in the description. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about notes, okay? And sometimes, you might want to take notes on paper, and that gets real messy real fast. It's hard to keep track of things. And once you get to a year, multiple years, it's hard to keep track of. So what I recommend is digital note-taking. And what I've discovered is Microsoft OneNote is a great application for digital note-taking. And the amazing thing that I've learned, you may say, oh gosh, if I have to get OneNote, does that mean I need Microsoft Office? Microsoft 365, subscriptions, $300 software packages. Am I buying Bill Gates' protege's mansions in Washington State? No. OneNote is perfectly free, and you can get it whether you're using Windows or a Mac and Mac OS or an iPad or an Android tablet. Some people like that iPad Pro. There's some nice Android-based tablets and things like that. Or you can use it on the web. Okay, but I would recommend using it on your main PC or laptop operating system, whether that's Windows or a Mac. All right. And you can go to OneNote.com or just search for Microsoft OneNote to be safe and not go to a suspicious website, and download Microsoft OneNote. And if you have a recent version of Windows, the program may already be there. You may not even need to download it. So check if you have Windows. You might already have OneNote pre-installed for you already. So check that out. Now, once you've downloaded OneNote, you can open it up. So I'm going to do that here. We're going to get the, let me see if I can get this up. Okay, there it is. So now you'll have OneNote. And what you want to do, here's what I recommend. Okay, you want to make and use one file at a time. Okay, that's going to be the easiest thing to do. Because if you have to sit here and close a notebook and open a notebook and find the file and this and that, you're never going to stick with it. What I like to do at the beginning of the year, right after I come back from the, holidays, Christmas, New Year's, whatever you do at the end of the year, whether you do anything or not, I like to create a new notebook. So let's pretend we're doing this on January 1st. Okay, so we've got the new option. We are going to, you're going to try to find a place to store these things. I would store it locally, or you can use, if you have OneDrive space, you can store it there. But let's say I just want to put this on my desktop. Let's just call it example. I got to turn my caps lock key off. Example 2025. Okay. And we're going to create it. And, it'll say your notebook has been, it's giving me a dialogue here that you can't see. It says, your notebook has been created. Would you like to share it with other people? I say, not now. And here we go. We've got a new notebook. Now up here is my real 2024 notebook that I'm not going to share because it has all my real notes. But down here, so we are in the example 2025 notebook. Now, as you go through years, you may have, 2024, 2025, 2026. That's fine. You can switch between these. But I find that A year for a notebook is pretty good. Now, when you start out, what you'll have are these sections, okay? And what I like to do is note that each section, you can have multiple pages. Okay, so we have an untitled page right here in the middle in this gray area. And then this is our page. So if we give it a name, let's just say test, you'll see that the name of the page gets updated. And we can always add more pages if we want to. But what I like to do is I like to set up my section. So we're in this first section. I'll rename it. It's just called new section right now. And I'm going to call it to-do list. And what I like to do with the to-do list, and you can add other sections here because we might want a section, for example, we can make one and rename it. Did I rename it? So we got the to-do section. We've got an untitled section. Let's rename it. We're going to call it vacations. Okay. One thing I like to do when I was working, before I was fake retired, is figure out all the vacation days I used and what vacation days I had available, which days on the calendar were holidays where I didn't, don't go to work on a holiday. And so I had some pages for that in this section, vacation section. And as you do things like training, you go to a class, or maybe you have a very specific project that's going to be short but very intense, you might make a new section just for that project or that work group or that task force. And so I don't make too many of these sections throughout the year. But at the end of the year, I'll probably end up with half a dozen to 10 sections. But the one that I always start out with, and if I have nothing else, okay, I have this to-do list section. And within that, what I like to do is make a page per month, okay? Because we already know what the months are going to be. Now, if this is too granular for you and you don't want to deal with a page per month, you like all your notes on one page, you could do this based on quarters, like calendar quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then just have 4 pages. But I like months because every month I'm going to be using each one of these pages in turn. And then when I'm done, I will have the full record, whether I need to go back a quarter or 6 months or a year, maybe for performance reviews or something like that, or recaps. I can go back as far as I want. I can go back 3 months, I can go back 6 months, I can go back a year and look at everything that was in my to-do list notes section. Okay, so let's show an example. So we'll say January, okay, and then we can add more, February, and on and on. And you can do this 12 times and get to December, okay, and then you'll have every month for the year. That's what I like to do. Now, if you do a lot of short tasks, you have huge to-do lists, and months are not granular enough, you could go on a weekly basis. You can take your calendar, and every year, if you look at a 2025 calendar, for example, for next year, you can actually count up. There will be 52 or 53 sort of weeks in which you will be doing your work. And you could call them, you could number those weeks, like week 1, week 2, week 3 for the year. And you could do it that way. And then you'd have 52 pages if you really need it. But I think that's overkill. I really don't recommend that unless you've been doing this a long time and you know you need a lot of note pages. I find the monthly granularity is good. If it's too much for you, you can go to quarters, and that's fine too. So you have both of those options, but I like the months. Now, what goes into this page? All right, so what we're going to put in this page is, at a minimum, we're going to have 2 sections, okay? And the first one is going to be the to-do list. And I like to keep this live. So what I'll do sometimes, like Monday mornings, I'll just go in and look at this and make sure this to-do list is accurate. Does it match what I have in my Outlook emails? Does it match what I have in some other work tracking system? Like maybe you're writing software and your team uses Jira to track tasks. So to me, this list of to-do items should be one level more detailed than something your team might be using to track tasks. You might have a work, some sort of ticket system, and you have to do tickets. Or you might create quarterly objectives or annual objectives or monthly objectives with your manager. Or as a manager, you may be creating those lists of objectives with your employees. This to-do list here should be inclusive of that, plus other things. So for example, if I have to go, clean up a spreadsheet in Excel and send it to my friend Jason at work, that might be something for my to-do list. This isn't going to be a quarterly objective that I've developed with my manager or that I've developed with an employee that works for me. Because, taking 20 minutes and cleaning up a spreadsheet and then mailing it to Jason, that's not something you need to track for the full quarter. But it is something you need to do and remember to do. So it is the perfect place in this OneNote to-do list to put that there. So, clean up Excel, send to Jason. You might start having things here. You might have a quarterly objective, like finish coding some software that you need to do. You might need to complete a training class. You might need to, test some hardware in the lab. Whatever your job is, you will have these things. And you can keep track of your to-do list here. And it is good if you can make these things measurable. So if you can read these little sentence fragments and say yes or no, that they're done or not done, then they're probably written pretty well. Because what you really want to be able to do is at the end of the day say, yes, this is done, or no, it's not done yet. And sometimes that requires breaking things into two. So for example, sometimes something might be very more complicated than you think. You may have to, revise a Word document, but then you may need to publish the Word document in a system. Okay, and these might be more time-consuming than you first thought. So you might start out with these on one line, but eventually you might break them in half, because then you might be able to say, well, this first one is done. I've revised the document, but I haven't published it in the system yet because the system is down. I need to wait for, IT Brad to bring the system back up, something like that. So you can always do that, or you can always merge things together. But what you want here is you don't want something that's really ambiguous. You don't want something that's like, get better at writing software. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, how do I know if you're better or not? But if you say, I want to finish reviewing a training manual, like that might be something for your to-do list because you can say whether you've done that or not. Okay, now, as you complete items, the second section we're going to want here is the done section. And what I'm going to say here is it can be tempting to make a to-do list. And when you're done with something, okay, I completed the training class, you go and delete it. But we're not going to do that. We don't want to delete anything, okay? What we want to do is just take that item and move it, cut and paste, to the done column. And this way, every month, you're, at least like, once or twice a week, like on Mondays or whatever, you're keeping this up to date. And when you're done with the month, so let's say the month is over and we did these things, but we didn't do these last two things. So what I'll do in this case is I will take this to-do list section and you can copy this whole section and move it to February. And now February, you've preloaded, it's January 31st or whatever it is, February 1st. You've moved on to the next thing. Now, the nice thing about this is you can always go back to January and say, what did I do in January? These are the things you did. You have a complete record of everything you did. You can always show this to your manager, whether your manager wants to see it or not. We would have, when I first started working at my last job, we did annual reviews, and then eventually they moved it to like 3 times a year, which was kind of awkward, and then they moved it to 4 times a year, which was nice. So what I would do 4 times a year, I would take the last 3 of these pages. I would take all the done items, and I would copy these into an email, And I would clean it up a little bit. I'd make it look, the sentences look a little nicer. Maybe I'd organize it in terms of these are things I did as a manager. These are technical things I did. These are things I did to learn new things. Whatever categories you can break them into, there's going to be 2 to 4 categories that you can classify all of your done items into. Okay. It might be things like technical work, management work, maybe there's program management work. Maybe you have training, learning, mentoring. There will always be these categories, interviewing and hiring. There will be these categories, some number of these categories will apply to your job. And you can take all of the done items, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a full year. When I first started my last job, it was a full year. So you basically needed 12 of these. So you had to keep track of these and make sure you didn't, fall off the cliff with, remember, what the heck did I do last January? It's December now. You had to have these good notes to go back to. So that's what you want to do. And then I would always send that list to my manager, regardless of whether I had to do some other self-assessment template or whether they filled something out with me or I filled something out. I would always do this in addition because I always wanted my manager to know exactly what I'd done. Because if my manager thinks, oh, the things Bruce is doing is way off, it's not the right stuff, I want them to be able to tell me. I did XYZ. Should I have done A, B, C, instead of XYZ, or X, Y, and C instead of XYZ, right? You want to be able to have those conversations, and you want the manager to have that material. So as a manager, you want to get your employees into the habit of keeping track of these things as well. And I think OneNote is a great tool for doing that. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've figured it out. Now you can always use, this thing's sort of free form. You can see these different sections here. You can move them around. Sometimes you need to make the columns longer because you have longer text showing up. You can move them all around. And you can make other things here. So for example, if you have some quick notes that you need to remember, like, hey, June 30th is when the product has to be done. August 15th is when there's a launch event. You can make some little notes down here. Maybe your boss just told you some key dates you need to remember that they learned from the program. You can keep some little notes here off in the corner. I like to do that. Anything you need to do there. Maybe there's a link, a hyperlink you need to keep track of. One thing I would suggest, just like we did the big to-do list, that's the main one. And I said, an example of another section here might be vacation tracking, right? Vacation time. We could have a new section for frequently used links. So you don't have to pollute your, Google Chrome browser bookmarks with a bunch of work links. Okay, you can keep them in OneNote, and then just your HTTP, Google.com, or whatever your links are that you need to keep track of. And the nice thing about this is you can add some notes. You can say like search site. You can add some context to your links, whereas you might not have great context if you have a huge list of bookmarks in Google Chrome. And then when the tool that your employer uses that you need to go access doesn't work properly with Chrome, and you have to switch to Firefox or Edge or something like that, suddenly you don't have your bookmarks, and it's a big hassle. So, or you go from, you upgrade your computer or something and you lose your bookmarks. You want to keep your OneNote notebooks and keep your frequently used links here. I like to do that too. Okay. And then what are some other cool tips and tricks you can do in here? We're almost done, guys, but I just wanted to show you some cool things OneNote can do. And if you watch some other YouTube videos about OneNote, I'm not going to go through all the things it can do, because this isn't a training video. This is just a best practices video. But it can do really cool things. So if you have to say 17 plus 3, and you say equals, and you just hit enter, it does the math for you. So it kind of has a built-in simple calculator for you. So if you need to figure something out real quick with some math, it can help you out. So that's one thing it can do. 2 plus 2 equals whatever, it equals 4. Okay, good. And then another one that's really nice. Okay, let's say you're taking some notes. You've got wine club. Okay, and you need to remember if you've bought tickets or what date the wine club event is on. You can just hit tab and it'll make a table for you. And now we can make a little table. Do I have tickets? What's the date? And then when you're done making columns, you can hit enter and it will make a new row for you. Okay, so maybe there's champagne night. I'm not spelling this right. And I've got tickets and it's Friday, January 15th or whatever. I'm just making this up. And then we can get to, where's my next? We need to get to the next row. How do I do that? I don't know. Okay, we need another row here. You can do things like right click and in the table menu, you can insert columns, or sorry, rows. We can go over here. We didn't need this column at the end. We can delete that. We can delete the column. Okay, we can tighten this up. Maybe there's like lobster truck and I don't have a ticket. Or maybe you don't even need a ticket. I don't know. And maybe that's, Thursday, January 20th or something like that. Okay, and then we can make more columns for whatever we want to do. Maybe maybe we just go to a tasting and you don't need a ticket. And, we're going to do that on February 1st or something. And you can make a table, okay? So you can do some math, you can make tables, you can move them all around, you can reformat them, you can make them look cool. You can right click and, you can highlight the text. You can do all sorts of stuff in here, guys. But at a minimum, let's go over what I recommend. I recommend one notebook or file per year. I recommend a few sections of key things you want to keep track of. And the one that is the most important is the to-do list of the things you want to do, okay, to be accountable. And then my recommendation is to have a page per month that you can keep track of. You could do this on quarters. You could do it on weeks if you want, but I like months. And then you want the main to-do list with measurable objectives. Are they done or not? Yes or no? That's what you want how you want these to be written. And then when they're done, you move them to the done column. And then you have a complete track of everything you've done through the whole year at the end of the year in your notebook, in your OneNote, okay? And all you have to do is open this up every Monday morning, keep it up to date, or whenever you feel like, I've got a whole bunch of new stuff in Outlook or in Gmail. Oh my gosh, how do I keep track of all of it? Open up your OneNote, add it in, and you'll be good to go. You can keep track of what's going on. You can segment your to-do list in so you could say these things are high priority. You could say there's some medium priority things. And as you do this, you can move the little boxes around, get things out of the way. Medium priority, paint my toenails or something like that. I don't know, guys. In any case, eat some food. Maybe that's low priority. In any case, we got to eat some food sometime, guys, because otherwise you faint and then you can't do anything on your to-do list. But in any case, this is how I use OneNote. And this is how I've used OneNote for years. And it's been successful for me. OneNote, go download it for free. It might already be on your system if you already have a Windows latest OS. Go check it out, guys. Play around with it. See what you like. Do you have other tips and tricks? Leave them in the comments section. All right. This has been my overview of OneNote as a management and employment best practice. All right, guys. If you've made it this far, thank you for your time. I will talk to you later. I am Bruce Morgan, Bruce the Moose. This has been the Bruce Morgan Show. Have a good one, guys.